103.3 WJOD. My name is Steve Pulaski. My next guest is a singer-songwriter whose career has spanned multiple decades and counting. Known for her lovely ballads, she was one of the defining voices of 80s country music, and she's still releasing albums to this day. Very excited to chat with her about some of her most recent releases. She's Sylvia Kirby, but you better know her simply as Sylvia. How are we today, Sylvia?
I'm great, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Excited to chat with you, Sylvia. What's the start of 2026 been like for you?
It's been interesting. It's been good. We had an ice storm here in January, the end of January, which was pretty exciting and kind of devastating here in Nashville. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. So that was kind of the year starting off with a bang. And we didn't have power for about 5 days. But overall, everything's pretty much back to normal, and it's a beautiful day here.
Do you still tour, or are you planning on touring in the near future? When was your last show?
My last show was a couple of years ago. I am not touring currently. I have been a life and career coach since about 1999, so about 26 years now that I've been working as a life and career coach, and I really feel the inner kind of pull to really focus on that at this time in my life. I don't say that I'm not ever going to tour again. I don't know, but at the moment, I'm very focused on doing my coaching work with people.
What does being a life coach entail, and how did you get involved in that line of work, Sylvia?
To make a long story as short as possible, in the 90s, when I had really focused on songwriting after my RCA days, music just didn't seem to want to happen as far as getting a label deal or making music at that point. And I began to be curious about what else might life be wanting of me. And I heard about coaching, and it felt like a beautiful fit. It's a way to help people to help themselves. It's a process of basically conversations where I'm using my curiosity and my intuition to ask questions and help people come to their own clarity and their own answers in their lives. And so people come to me to work with me who are maybe at some kind of a crossroads in their lives, that maybe they're not happy in their work and they want some help getting happier with their work, or they're wanting to do something else in life, or they're dealing with spiritual issues and they're wanting to talk with somebody about that. And so it can be a wide range of things, but I'm here as just kind of a sounding board and a person who will be curious about what's going on with them and ask them the questions that hopefully help them come to their own answers.
What does that work look like? Is it like phone calls? Is it like Zoom meetings? Is it in person? Like how do you approach the work as a life coach?
It's all three of those. I coach people on Zoom, I coach people over the phone, and I also sometimes meet with people in person too, so it depends on where you are. But I coach people that live in all kinds of different states, and people in Florida and New York City and Arizona, just all over.
Getting coached by the woman who's saying nobody has to be, a feather in the cap of your clients, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know about that, because it's really not about me. As a coach, I'm fully focused on them and what's up with them and how I can be of help to them.
If people want to learn more about your work as a life coach, or even maybe inquire about your services, where can they do that?
They can go to my website, which is Sylvia, Sylvia, Kirby, Kirby, coaching.com, and go to my website there and just contact me through the website.
Again, she's Sylvia Kirby. Switching gears now, talking about your music, more specifically, Sylvia. For those who haven't heard it, your most recent album of new material is called Nature's Child, A Dreamer's Journey. Talk about that record, what it means to you.
Well, it means the world to me. This record was about 34 years in the making. I had written half of the album in the late 80s and early 90s, and then just kind of put it on the shelf, kind of waiting for the right time to finish it. And lo and behold, after I put out Second Bloom, which was re-recording a lot of the hits that I had in the 80s, it just felt like it was time. And so my friend John Mock and I always co-produce my records with him, and we co-write together as well. and we worked on finishing that album. And I am for me, this is the best thing I've ever done. This is more me involved in it. And, that's true. As we move along in life, hopefully we're more and more who we are, and we're learning and we're growing. And so this album, to me, the Nature Child, is really full of hope and encourages us to dream and use our imaginations. And if we don't like where we are, make peace with it and set our sights on where we do want to be in life. So it's very inspirational. It's an inspirational album, and it's also it has a spiritual aspect to it. So that's very subtle, but it's my favorite.
You can find more about that album and even take a listen to it at sylviamusic.com. That's sylviamusic.com. If you could tell someone to listen to one song on that album, Nature's Child, A Dreamer's Journey, to get an essence of you as a performer or even the album in general, Sylvia, what would that song be?
Oh, gosh. Well, there's probably two songs on the album. I would say the very first song on the album, which is called Avalon, and then the title cut, Nature Child. I think both of those songs would kind of give you a feel for the energy of the record, but there's a lot of diversity on the record too, and so I hope people will want to listen and be inspired.
One of your biggest hits, Sylvia, is undoubtedly Nobody, and it remains enduringly popular. Walk me through that song's kind of origin story. How was it introduced to you?
Well, it was introduced the day I recorded it. I had recorded I was recording my second album for RCA. My first album was called Drifter, and I had several top tens, and my first #1 record, which was Drifter, on that album. And as we were making the second album, we had pretty much recorded all the songs really that were needed for the album. There were 10 songs on an album at that time. And we thought, well, let's do one more session just to be sure we had the 10 best songs. And the morning of the day I recorded, Kai Fleming and Dennis Morgan, who wrote a lot of my hits, and they wrote Nobody. They came busting into the office saying, hey, you got to hear the song. We haven't even put it down on tape. And they just sang it for me live. And I fell in love with it before the second chorus. I was singing along with them by the second chorus. So I said, we've got to record this song. But we'd already planned to record some other songs that day. So it was the last song of the last session for the album, and we had just a few minutes. I think we did 3 passes, and we may have ended up taking the second pass. I don't know. But it just felt like magic. I've never had an experience like that in the studio before or since that just felt like this is a hit. I mean, I just knew that this song had something special about it. But of course, none of us had any idea it would do what it did. It sold over 2 million singles, and the album went gold, and the single, it was really a surprise in a really beautiful way. And after it hit #1 on the country charts and was beginning to come back down, it took off on the pop charts.
Yep.
And it became, a top 15 record on the pop charts, the top 100. So it was quite the ride. and to this day, when I've performed it at the Grand Ole Opry or wherever, people sing along every word. It just does my heart good to hear that.
Yeah, I was wondering, too, because some artists I've heard them say, and they've told me, too, that, they know it when they're recording it, that this has the potential to be big and stuff like that. And I guess when you're an artist, too, when you release something to the public, you never quite know how it's going to land, especially nowadays. But that sounds like it was like magic from the start. And then just to see that kind of reward of it climbing on the country charts and then crossing over to pop, that had to be really rewarding for you, too, just as an artist.
Yes, it was. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of and more. You can't dream it that big, or I couldn't. So it was a beautiful thing. And by the way, when you hear that original recording of Nobody that became the hit, the vocal that I did in the studio that day when we recorded with the musicians was the vocal that ended up being used. So I didn't go back in and overdub the vocal. Everything was live. So it was a pretty exciting thing to have the live vocal be the vocal that you hear when you listen to the record. That's
really cool. She's Sylvia Kirby, again, singer-songwriter. You're from Kokomo, Indiana, correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
What did the Beach Boys song do for your hometown?
I don't know that it did much. The deal is, when the Beach Boys had that record out, there was no such thing as a Kokomo in the Florida Keys, and it was just made up. Kokomo, Indiana has been around for a couple hundred years. It's been around a long time. So what I heard, and I believe this is true, that some suburb of some town in the Florida Keys decided to rename themselves Kokomo so that they could make souvenirs and sell them to people, tourists. So I guess there is a Kokomo down there now, but until that song was a hit, it didn't exist. It only happened in Indiana.
I want to give you the opportunity, Sylvia, to talk about some of your other albums or really anything else you want people to know about just regarding your music or anything like that.
Yeah, well, what I'd like people to know, in 2024, about a year and a half ago, RCA, which was the label that I recorded for during the 1980s, they decided to put all of my albums up on Spotify and wherever you stream your music. You can listen to all of my albums that I put out on RCA. For a long time, only the album that had nobody on it was available. Now they are all on Spotify and the other streaming platforms. So, and the big surprise was there was an album that I recorded at the end of my RCA days that the label at that time decided not to put out. And so they shelved it. And when they contacted me in 2024 saying that they would like to put out all my albums on streaming platforms, I asked about this album that didn't get released, and it's called Knockin' Around. And because I think of all the albums I made during my RCA days, this was probably my favorite thing I ever recorded for them, and then they didn't put it out. But they put it out in 2024, so it's called Knockin' Around, and we subtitled it The Lost Album. And so you can listen to it now, and I am very excited about that because I think it's just a beautiful record, great songs, and my mother can't quit. She listens to my music pretty often. My mom is 88. It still lives in Kokomo, and this is the record she listens to the most now. It's called Knockin' Around, The Lost Album, Sylvia, and just put that in Spotify or wherever you listen to your music, and you can listen to the album.
When you went back and listened to it, how long had it been since you'd heard some of those songs?
Since 1987 or so. So how many years is that? They shelved it, and I didn't have it, so...
How surreal was it? How surreal was it to hear that again?
It was very surreal, and I was actually very surprised at how good it was. Most singers are their own worst critic, but I just feel like it has really held up over time. It does not sound dated to me at all. There's good songs, good performances. The musicians played incredibly beautifully on this record. So if you get a chance, go check it out.
What else should people know about Sylvia Kirby?
That I love my life. I'm so grateful and thankful for the fans that have followed me all these years. I have a really nice following on Facebook and Instagram, and occasionally make posts on there and interact with folks. So if they want to find me on Facebook, they can find me under my Sylvia page or under Sylvia Kirby. And so just reach out. That's a way to kind of keep in touch. If anything new comes along down the pike, I'll be posting about it there.
Again, she is Sylvia Kirby. You can check out her website, all of her music, sylviamusic.com. And one more time, Sylvia, the website for your work as a life coach, too?
It's sylviakirbycoaching.com.
Again, Sylvia Kirby, greatly appreciate your time today, Sylvia. I wish you nothing but good health, positive spirits, and just continue living your life and spreading a lot of joy through a lot of different facets. We're grateful for it.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Appreciate you.